Hey friends, welcome to Made from Scratch. I'm your host, Jennifer Wenderott, and welcome to my kitchen. I am so glad that you all are here in the Flint Hills of Northeast Kansas. I cannot wait to share my journey with you and how my love of baking and cooking and entertaining got started. It all started when I was little. I got to spend a lot of time at my grandma's house, and she loved to bake. She loved to have her family over. She loved to have a huge spread of food for everybody. And I got to help her because I was there. One of Grandma's most famous things that she made was her apple pie. And to this day, if we're gonna have a family event, people still ask, Grandma, are you going to make apple pie? So as we are prepping things for the holiday season, we're gonna make Grandma's apple pie. It's gonna start with real butter. It's gonna have a blend of apples, lots of cinnamon, and we're gonna put it all inside of a hand-rolled crust. So let's get that crust started because it does need some time in the refrigerator to get that butter back to firm. One thing that I do differently than Grandma is I use my food processor to get the crust going. At Grandma's, we would do this by hand in a big bowl, and it just took a long time. So one of the modern conveniences is a food processor. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get this put in here. We've just got some flour, some sugar, a little bit of salt, and to that, we're gonna add cold butter, real butter, unsalted, right inside of the food processor. And we're gonna get this going until it's kind of like sand. You want some of it to still be a little bit big, so anywhere from blueberry size down to like sand granules. And this is honestly only gonna just take you a couple of pulses to get that put together. You'll see the butter break down. It's gonna be real quick. Then we're gonna use cold water, and we're gonna need about a half a cup or so, but you want to watch as you're pulsing this because you're gonna see it start to come together, and sometimes you don't need the full amount of water. So this is really kind of an eyeball it kind of thing. But again, ice water is the key ingredient to this. So we're gonna start pouring, and we're gonna pulse at the same time. We're watching it come together. It's gonna get kind of a Play-Doh type consistency. Just about there. And it's just starting to come together. So that's where we want that to be. One of the key things to this, again, is having it go back into the refrigerator. So we're just going to wrap this in a little bit of plastic wrap. And this is going to make a double crust pie. So you can do one double crust, or you could do like 2 cream pies out of this, or you could do a crumb topping instead of the crust. So you can see that it's just starting to come together. Not a lot of crumb left in it. We're just gonna pour about half of this out right onto your plastic wrap. Just eyeball that half. Not gonna be a big deal. And then you're just gonna use the plastic wrap to bring it together. Just a couple of kneads right in there. That brings it together. And then it's gonna get a pop in the fridge to just get that butter hardened back up. So we'll get number 2. And again, just pop that right onto that plastic wrap. Fold it together. You'll see how easy this comes together. There's no work to this at all. let your plastic wrap do it for you. Just get those like that. And then these are gonna go in the fridge. So we're gonna get these popped in the fridge. When we come back, we are gonna do a delicious and easy pumpkin bar. So stay tuned. So with the holidays coming up, you're gonna need another easy dessert to make. Sometimes pie can be a little daunting, so let's do something that will feed a crowd and that's easy for you to do and kind of has that tradition. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to do some pumpkin pie bars. So this has a shortbread crust, but it has that delicious, creamy pumpkin pie type filling to it. And then you can always add some nuts or whipped topping, even some caramel sauce on top would be great. So the first thing that you need to do is we're going to get the shortbread crust started. Shortbread crust is easy to make. Again, it's gonna use, my friend, the food processor because you want everything to come together nice and quick. Few ingredients, gonna put it on a sheet pan when we're all done. So this is gonna have some brown sugar. We're gonna do some flour. And again, all right into the food processor. Our cold butter. Cold butter is always the key when you're making any type of shortbread or pie crust. Just smaller chunks so that it can incorporate quickly and it doesn't break the fats down in that butter. And then this is gonna have 1 egg and a little bit of water just to help combine it all. And again, just a few pulses in the food processor. And you're gonna see this come together. It's gonna have, again, a sand-like texture. And just give that a check. So that's pretty good. We're gonna give it one really good to bring it all together. Inside now, it's like sand. So we're just gonna put this out onto a greased baking sheet. This is a 13 by 18 baking sheet. You've got one that's a little smaller, that's okay. You'll just have a thicker crust. Hands are your best tool. We're just going to spread this out here and get this to the corners and nice and patted down. You don't have to make sure that it's super even. You just want it to get all the way to the edges. You're gonna feel that butter start to get everything stuck together, and that looks pretty good. Now, oven, 15 minutes to just give that a little bit of a bake. We'll go ahead and we will get the filling for this put together now. So this is pumpkin. So it's gonna be very similar to your pumpkin pie. It's gonna be soft and creamy, have a great flavor to it. So we're going to have our pumpkin and we're gonna whisk into this brown sugar. Just get that incorporated. We're gonna use a spatula. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Pampered Chef, but if you are not, I highly recommend that you take a peek. And Kaylee Barlow is a terrific consultant for you to get in touch with. She would be able to tell you all about their products. I love them. I am using one of their spatulas here, and I love their small whisk. So definitely think about some of those products. We've got the brown sugar, the pumpkin combined. We are going to add a cup of heavy whipping cream because everything is better with some heavy cream. classic pumpkin pie always has evaporated milk, and this is where your whisk is going to come in very handy. If you just do it slowly. We're also going to need 6 eggs, and this is what's going to help to set that. And then 6 eggs real quick. And you're gonna want these to be at room temperature. The reason you want your eggs at room temperature is because they're going to incorporate much better into the filling, and they're not gonna have any kind of lumps or anything with them then, because sometimes you can get eggs that more scramble than what they do if they are cold. So if you poke your eggs before you add them, they will incorporate much better. Just gonna get that all mixed together. Use that spatula again to get down into the bottom. And then we're gonna add pumpkin pie spice, because what would a pumpkin pie be without pumpkin pie spice? So this is gonna take just a little bit of work to get this all incorporated. You've got a lot of liquid in here, that heavy cream and those eggs. So take your time, don't rush it, because you wanna make sure that you keep it nice and smooth. And we're letting that crust bake for about 15 minutes. So you have got time to get this all incorporated. One of the great things about a sheet pan dessert is the fact that it feeds so many people. And the fun thing with this one is most of the time you would think about cutting them into squares. Well, we're gonna do it a little different, and we're gonna cut these into triangles when we're done, because then you will have more of that traditional pumpkin pie slice. So we're gonna let that crust finish baking and give it about 15 minutes, and you come back and we're gonna get this put on that crust, and we're gonna get this finished up. We're also gonna go ahead and we're gonna get that apple pie done and get that put in the oven, because I can guarantee you, you're not gonna wanna miss that. Thanks for joining us, and we're gonna shout out Kaylee Barlow of Pampered Chef. She is what makes cooking in my kitchen so easy with all of Pampered Chef's wonderful products. Cleanup in this kitchen happens because of Amy with Norwex. I want you to make sure that you check out her website so that you too can make cleaning in your house simple and easy and without harsh chemicals. We're gonna give big kudos to Alma Cheese. They sponsored this series and gave us tons of wonderful cheese. So if you want to have a great product in your home, make sure that you either shop their I-70 retail shop or visit their website so it can get shipped to your house. Flint Hills Pints of Alma, Kansas makes the most delicious homemade ice cream with local products. And our final shout out goes to Heather Beggs of Flint Hills Hideaway. If you're looking for a place to stay while you are exploring the area, be sure you give Heather a call. And if you're wanting to add some zen to your house, you need to check out her feng shui. All right, so 15 minutes and we've got our crust ready to go. So we're gonna pull that out. You just want that shortbread crust to start to brown a little bit around the edges, and it will have a little bit of cracking. That's okay. We're going to get our pumpkin pie filling right on top. Smooth that out to the edges. And we are ready to go back in the oven. So this is gonna go about, 25-30 minutes until you see that there's no more jiggle to it, and it may have just a little bit of cracking. That's okay. we're going to go ahead and we're going to get that apple pie finished up now. So our crust has had time to rest. We're going to grab some apples. We're going to get the crust rolled out. This crust is very easy to roll. Really doesn't have any problems getting where it needs to be. Super quick. I am using a 9-inch pie tin. Yep, it's aluminum. And let me tell you a couple reasons why. If you are taking this to a friend's house, you are taking it to family, there might be some left over because there's often lots of desserts. There might be a reason that you need to leave early. And you want to leave that there. One of the best things about it is that there's no cleanup for your hostess. If you are not doing this at your own house, you don't want any extra stress on your hostess. So go ahead and just use that throwaway pie tin. A little bit of flour on your surface, a little bit of flour on the top, flour up your rolling pin. And we are going to now roll. One of the most important things about rolling a pie crust is that you only roll in one direction. So you can roll out and back towards you in 2 motions, but you don't want to go back and forth like this. That is going to crush the butter, and it's also going to make your pie crust very tough. So 1 time out, and then you can kind of change the direction too. You can see how quick and easy this crust rolls. No sticking. And again, just a few times in and out, and you have hand-rolled pie crust that is ready to go. I just use my tin to make sure that I've got it out far enough. Rolling pin, and use it as your helper. Roll this up and over, and then right over your pie tin. Now, you just want to make sure that you get this all the way patted down. So really there's not an edge or a corner, but you want to get it all the way around into that crust. And then we're just going to trim the edges. I don't ever reuse my pie crust and roll this back out. That is what makes for a tough crust. If you've ever had a hard time like cutting through the bottom of a pie, that's why, because they have overworked their crust. So if you just roll it 1 time, then you're not gonna get an overworked crust. Just gonna get the top one ready to go. So that way, when we are ready to dump our apples in, we've got our crust nice and ready. So again, just a little bit of flour keeps it from sticking on the rolling pin. Just give it a couple of turns. You don't really even have to flip it over as long as you keep going in opposite directions. And remember, don't go back and forth, just go 1 out and 1 in. And you can see how easy pie crust comes together. It's not hard to make pie from scratch. Perfect. Gonna roll that back up there. We're just gonna set that to the side just like that, and we're gonna get our apples put together here. We are using a combination of Gala apples and some Honeycrisp apples. And I've got a few here in the bowl, but I'm gonna show you what quick work you can make of apples when you have great tools. If you have an apple peeler, you can use that. Those are fantastic. I don't have one, so we do it the old-fashioned way. Peel that one up. Then we're going to use, again, one of our Pampered Chef products. One of my favorite Pampered Chef products is the apple core. and it makes great slices. So get that sliced. And add that right to our apple bowl. In here, I've got, 4 or 5 apples, already peeled and sliced. An apple pie takes anywhere from 6 to 7, just depending on how large you slice them, and how tall you want your apple pie to be. And this makes very short work of making that apple pie. To this, we're gonna add a little bit of sugar, a little bit of cinnamon, and a little bit of flour. The flour is what's gonna make that kind of thick juice that goes in there with your apple pie filling. So, a little bit of that, little bit of cinnamon, and Grandma measured with her heart. She very rarely used a measuring cup. Get that stirred around, and it's gonna go right into our crust. You can see how the sugar brings out a lot of the juice in the apples. Perfect. Then we're just gonna put that crust right over the top. Might have to pull it just a little bit. Pinch those edges right on the pan. That's what's gonna hold all the juice inside of that apple pie. And again, trim. And I just use the edge of the pan as my guide. Go right around that edge. And like I said before, I don't reuse my crust because that is when things get tough. And then we're just gonna give these a pinch. And then we're gonna wanna give this an egg wash on the top. That's what is gonna give it that nice kind of shiny golden brown. We are going to just use a fork, poke a few holes. That lets the steam escape and gives us a pretty crust. So we're just gonna mix up an egg. Now I'm just gonna put this right on top like this. And this just goes right around. You don't need a whole lot. You can thin this out with a little water if you want to. Not necessary, but that just gives it a nice shine. It also allows you to add a little bit of sugar to the top. Give you a little bit of crunch on top. Your pie goes in the oven for anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour. You're just gonna wanna keep an eye on it. You can poke a fork to see if your apples are soft. And if your edges start to brown a little bit, just use a piece of aluminum foil around there. In the oven. Those pumpkin bars look delicious. When we come back, we're gonna pull this all together and show you how easy it is to serve your holiday guests an easy pumpkin slab pie and homemade apple pie. So now it is time to get everything out of the oven. The apple pie has had about an hour that it took to bake. That's pretty normal. Been in there nice and bubbly. And the pumpkin bars, they are just set, so there's no more jiggle. You can use a paring knife to stick in there, and as long as it comes out clean or pretty close to clean, then you know it's ready. So let's get this out of the oven. One pan of pumpkin bars. You can see how nice the crust browned. It's got a little bit of cinnamon there. Apples are nice and full. So here's the best part. Give this pie a cut. We're gonna let those cool just a minute. That is perfect. A nice slice. Get right underneath that crust. Right there. Look at that. We've got a few extra apples that fell out. We'll add those on. And you know what, guys? We're gonna need one more thing to go with this. We need some delicious homemade ice cream. This ice cream is by Flint Hills Pints right here in Alma, Kansas. This is ice cream like no other ice cream you're gonna find. It is made with fresh dairy, fresh eggs, heavy cream, and it is delectable. We have got some butter brickle to go with our apple pie, because who doesn't want ice cream with their apple pie? We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna cut into these pumpkin bars right through that crust, right down through there, right around. And everybody wants to fill their plate with dessert. Piece of pumpkin, we're gonna have us a bite. You guys ready? Apple pie, butter brickle ice cream. Those apples are just sweet enough. They have just a little bit of crunch left to them. Not crunch, they're nice and soft, but they're not mushy. And now for that delicious pumpkin bar with a shortbread crust. Creamy filling, everything you would want, but a delicious crust with it. I'm so glad that you guys had the opportunity to join today. Stick around, stay on this journey with me, because we're gonna continue to make things from scratch, and I'm gonna keep showing you how easy it is. See you next time.